She made the world believe I was dead, and everyone believed her. That's how this story begins. Not with a murder, not with a goodbye, but with an obituary written while I was still breathing. I woke up one morning, made coffee, opened my laptop, and saw my own face staring back at me on news site. Local man found dead in car accident. Investigators confirm identity. Same name, same age, same photo. The one Mia took on our vacation 2 years ago when she said, "You look perfect in this light." At first, I thought it was a mistake, maybe a scam. But then my phone started buzzing with messages. My coworker, "Man, I'm so sorry." My aunt, "I can't believe it. You were such a good soul." My landlord, "If your family needs to clean the apartment, let me know." Everywhere I looked, I was dead. I called the police, but they said my name was already marked as deceased. I tried my bank. "Sorry, sir, this account has been flagged for fraud." Even my email locked me out, citing memorial status verification. I was alive, but the world had already buried me. And the more I tried to fix it, the clearer it became. This wasn't an accident. I knew who did it. Mia, my ex. We'd broken up 4 months earlier, and at first, she took it well. Too well. She said she understood, that maybe we both needed space. But then came the calls. Hundreds of them. At work, at night, during meetings. When I blocked her number, she created new ones. When I changed my email, she somehow found it. She'd text me things like, "I can't exist without you," or "If I can't have you, I'll make sure no one does." I ignored it. I thought she'd calm down. I thought maybe, deep down, she still loved me. But love doesn't do what she did next. Because a week before my death, she showed up at my apartment, trembling, crying, saying she missed me. She asked if I could just talk, just for a minute. I let her in. She made tea. We talked. It felt almost normal again. Then she hugged me goodbye, whispered, "Now we're even," and left. I didn't know it then, but that was the last time anyone would see me alive. The next morning, the crash report appeared. A burned car, unrecognizable body, my name on the license. Someone had sent the documents, the photo, and the insurance papers to the authorities. And just like that, I was gone. That's when I realized Mia didn't want to hurt me. She wanted to erase me. And somehow, she had the power to do it. The first time someone looked at me and didn't recognize me, I thought it was a joke. I walked into the bank, showed my ID, tried to explain what had happened, that someone faked my death, that I needed to unfreeze my account. The woman behind the counter stared at the card, then at me, and said politely, "Sir, this isn't you." I laughed. "Of course it's me. Look at the photo." She frowned. "The photo's similar, but this ID belongs to someone deceased. The face doesn't match." I leaned closer, my pulse spiking. "What do you mean the face doesn't match?" She turned the screen toward me. It was my driver's license photo, my same name, same birthday, but the face had been altered. Subtly, but perfectly. The jawline was different. The eyes were smaller. It looked like me if someone had digitally redrawn my features just enough to make me a stranger. "Sir," she said carefully, "please leave before we call security." I walked out shaking, heart pounding so hard I could barely breathe. I went to another bank, same result. Then the DMV, the post office, even my doctor's office. Every record said the same thing. Deceased male, 32, identity closed. By the end of the day, I wasn't sure which was worse, that I was alive or that the world no longer believed it. That night, I searched my name online again. The obituary was still there, but now it had more comments. Condolences. Memories. People I hadn't spoken to in years saying how kind I was, how tragic it was to lose me so young. There was even a memorial fundraiser in my honor, organized by Mia. I clicked the link. The photo on the page was one of us together. Me holding her at the beach, her face pressed against mine. The caption read, "He'll live forever in our hearts." It didn't even feel real. I went to her apartment that night. She'd moved, of course. Her old neighbors said she left weeks ago, said something about starting over after her boyfriend's death. But one of them remembered a man visiting her before she left, tall, brown hair, same build as mine. He drove her car. It wasn't me. That detail wouldn't leave my head. Someone else had taken my place. The next day, I went to the police. The officer looked tired as I explained everything. The obituary, the altered records, the fundraiser. When I finished, he sighed. Sir, we get this kind of story sometimes. People under stress, identity theft, delusions after trauma. I slammed my hand on his desk. You think I'm crazy? He didn't flinch. I think you should talk to someone. When I demanded they pull the crash footage, he finally did, reluctantly, like he was humoring me. But when a video loaded, my stomach dropped. There was a car, the same model as mine. Flames. The body slumped in the driver's seat, impossible to identify. And yet, when the paramedics pulled the license from the glove compartment, the camera zoomed in. My name, my ID, and then something I'll never forget. For half a second, the camera caught a reflection in the car window, someone standing nearby, watching the fire. A woman in a dark coat. Long hair. Calm. Unmoved. Mia. I leaned closer to the screen. That's her. That's Mia. The officer looked at me blankly. Who? The woman in the reflection. He squinted at the monitor, then shook his head. Sir, there's no one there. But I saw her. I swear I did. When I looked again, the reflection was gone. The video had glitched, or maybe been altered. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing her voice in my head, the way she whispered that last night. Now we're even. Even for what? And then I remembered something. During the months we were together, she used to disappear for days. She said it was work, consulting, contracts, clients who needed privacy. I never asked too much. But once I saw a folder on her desk. It said ID mapping system. At the time, I thought it was some design project. But now I wasn't sure if Mia had ever been who she said she was either. I didn't have much left to lose. No name, no home, no record that I'd ever existed. So I started digging into hers. Mia, as I thought she was, had never existed either. No social security record, no passport, no official birth certificate. Her phone was disconnected, her email gone, her apartment scrubbed clean. She hadn't disappeared, she'd reset. But buried inside one of my old drives, I found a clue she must have missed. A shared document we once worked on together, a grocery list. At the bottom of the file, buried in the metadata, was a name, Clara Jensen. It wasn't hers, not the one she gave me, but it was something. I searched it. No results for a current address, but an archived forum page appeared. It was dated 3 years before I even met her. Someone had posted a thread titled, "Beware of this woman. She ruins lives." The post described a woman who'd faked her partner's suicide, transferred his savings, and vanished under a new identity. The author's name was Daniel K. There were 2 comments beneath it. One said, "He's lying. She's the victim." The other said, "He killed himself last month." The thread was locked after that. My hands were shaking. Different name, same pattern. She found men, rewrote their lives, destroyed their records, and then vanished like smoke. But there was more. The forum linked to an old cached image, a blurry photo of a woman. The same dark hair, the same eyes, the same smile that always looked like it hid something. It was her, Mia, Clara, whatever her real name was. And below the image, someone had written, "If she ever tells you she forgives you, it's already too late." The phrase echoed in my head for hours. That's exactly what she'd said the night I left her. "I forgive you." Forgive me for what? I started mapping out every address I could find tied to the name Clara Jensen. Old rentals, job listings, background checks, anything. One name repeated 3 times across different states, the Armitage Institute. It was listed as a crisis recovery center, but when I searched it, every website looked fake. Same design, different cities. No real contact info. Just one identical tagline. Helping people start new lives. That's when I realized she didn't just erase men out of spite. She worked for someone. It made sense now. The fake documents. The altered databases. The perfect cleanup jobs. It wasn't just her, it was a network. A system built to disappear people. I had to know more. So I drove to the closest address listed for the Institute, just outside a quiet town 3 hours away. The building looked empty from the outside, gray walls, dusty windows, a for lease sign that looked too new. But when I pressed my ear against the door, I heard faint voices. I waited until dark and found a side entrance that wasn't locked. Inside, it smelled like bleach and static. Desks lined the hallways, clean, labeled, abandoned, but not forgotten. On one wall, I saw dozens of ID photos pinned like trophies. Different men, different ages, all smiling. Every photo had a red X over it. At the end of the hallway, I found a room still lit. A projector hummed softly, looping through a video presentation. I watched it in silence. Phase 1, integration. Phase 2, dissolution. Phase 3, replacement. Each slide showed a timeline. A relationship, a staged death, a new identity created from the ashes. Then, the final slide appeared. Phase 4, rebirth. And in the corner of the screen, a logo, the Armitage Institute. But it was the last image that made my blood run cold. A photo of me, my driver's license, my face, and beneath it, stamped in bold red letters, Phase 3, complete. The lights flickered. I turned around. Someone was standing in the doorway. Her voice was calm, soft, familiar. You just couldn't let yourself stay dead, could you? It was Mia, or Clara, or whatever her real name was now. She smiled. Not angry, not surprised, just patient, like a teacher watching a student finally understand the lesson. And that's when I realized she hadn't been hiding from me. She'd been waiting. She stood in the doorway like a ghost that had finally decided to be seen. Her posture was calm, elegant, the same quiet confidence that once made me trust her. She wore a black coat, her hair pulled back, her face barely changed. The only difference was her eyes. They weren't the warm brown I remembered. They were colder now, sharper, almost studying me again. Mia, I whispered. She tilted her head, smiling faintly. That's not my name anymore. What is it this time? I asked, my voice trembling. Clara? Evelyn? Or whatever name you're hiding behind now. She laughed softly, stepping closer. You always were clever. That's why you lasted longer than the others. I backed away until my shoulders hit the wall. What is this place? Her gaze followed mine around the room. The walls covered in photos, the screens, the names. A monument, she said calmly, to all the men who thought they could live without me. I clenched my fists. You erased them. You erased me. She sighed, like I was a child who didn't understand a simple rule. No, I didn't erase you. I liberated you. Liberated? I barked a laugh. You made the world believe I was dead. Her tone didn't change. Because you were the man you used to be. Insecure, predictable, desperate for validation. That's not who you are now. You're awake. That's what the experiment was always meant to do. Experiment. I repeated, my stomach twisting. She smiled, that soft, deliberate smile that once made me fall for her. Everything is an experiment, Ethan. Every choice, every word, every reaction. But you were part of something greater. You were selected. For what? To see if love could survive erasure, she said simply. I stared at her. You're insane. Her eyes glimmered. Maybe, but insanity is just clarity that scares people. She took another step closer. You see, most people break when you take away their identity. They lose themselves. They become nothing. But you fought. You searched. You refused to vanish. That's why you're different. Different. I spat. You destroyed my life. She didn't flinch. No, I remade it. The calm in her voice was terrifying. There was no guilt, no hesitation, only purpose. She turned to the screen behind her and tapped a key. A new image appeared. Dozens of profiles. Men, women, faces connected by red lines and names. In the center of it all, hers. This is the Armitage Project, she said. A private study on identity reconstruction. We find people whose sense of self is built around love, then take that love away. We break them, and the ones who survive become something stronger. New, untouchable, and the ones who don't, I asked quietly. Her lips curved. We let the world bury them. My heart pounded. So that's what I was to you, a trial run. She smiled again. You were more than that. You were the only one who made it this far. You proved that identity isn't destroyed by death. It's transformed by it. I took a step toward her, shaking. You used me. You ruined everything. She reached out, brushed her fingers against my arm. You should thank me. I gave you a story no one else has. The man who died, but refused to stay dead. Do you know how rare that is? I jerk my arm away. You're sick. Her voice dropped to a whisper. No, I'm necessary. Before I could speak, the lights flickered, and I noticed for the first time that there were cameras everywhere, blinking red. Recording. You're filming this, I said, my chest tightening. She tilted her head. Of course. You're phase 4. The subject who returns. What happens after phase 4? She stepped back, her smile fading into something colder. That depends on whether you make it to phase 5. I didn't wait to find out what that meant. I turned and ran, through the hallways, past the photos, past the silence that seemed to follow me. The front door wouldn't open. My hands shook as I slammed against it again and again, until finally it gave way. I stumbled out into the night, gasping for air. While I looked back, the building was dark again. No lights, no sound, like it had never existed. But I knew she was still inside, watching, waiting, and for the first time, I realized she wasn't trying to kill me. She was trying to finish me. When I made it back to the city, I went straight to the police. Again, I told them everything about the Armitage Institute, about the fake deaths, about Mia, or Clara, or whatever she was calling herself now. I gave them the address, described every detail, the photographs, the screens, the smell of bleach, the cameras. The officer listened quietly, taking notes. When I finished, he looked at me for a long time and said, "There's no such place." I froze. What do you mean, there's no such place? I was there. He turned his computer toward me. On the map, the building I described was just an empty lot. Vacant for years. No ownership record. No lease. Not even an address. I insisted. I begged him to send a car, to see for himself. He sighed, picked up the phone, and called dispatch. 10 minutes later, the reply came in, "Nothing there, sir. Just an empty field." I felt my stomach twist into a knot. "You're lying." The officer closed his notebook slowly. "Mr. Harris, you've been under a lot of stress. Maybe it would be better if you spoke to someone." "I'm not crazy," I shouted, slamming my hand on his desk. The sound echoed through the room, and every head turned to look at me like I'd just proven his point. I left before they could stop me. Outside, the city felt wrong. The streets looked the same, the faces too, but something was off. People stared a moment too long. A billboard on the corner showed a charity ad, the same logo I'd seen at the Institute, helping people start new lives. It wasn't just one building. It was everywhere. That night, I went to my old apartment. The landlord wouldn't let me in. He said it was occupied. I told him it was mine. He shook his head. That tenant died months ago. I pushed past him before he could stop me. The apartment was different. New furniture, new photos, new life. But what made my blood run cold was the man standing inside. Same height, same build, same voice. He looked at me, confused. "Can I help you?" I couldn't breathe. "Who are you?" "I live here," he said, his tone defensive. "Who are you?" I stepped back. My name was on a mailbox outside. My old ID in my pocket. My face in his eyes. But it wasn't me. Not exactly. His voice was softer, less certain. "Are you okay, man?" I didn't answer. I turned and left. By the time I reached the street, my head was spinning. I needed proof, something physical. So I went to the newspaper that had printed my obituary. The receptionist looked at me like I was insane when I asked about it. "We don't publish obituaries," she said flatly. "You did," I insisted. 3 months ago. My name's. She interrupted before I could finish. "We've never printed that name." She turned her monitor toward me. The page where my obituary once was gone. No archive. No cached version. Like it had never been written. That's when I realized what she'd done. She hadn't just faked my death. She'd rewritten reality around it. Every trace of my life. Replaced, overwritten, reassigned. Someone else had my face, my name, my apartment, my entire history. I wasn't erased. I was replaced. That night, I went back to the empty field where the Armitage Institute had been. It was quiet, just grass and wind. But when I walked across the dirt, my shoe hit something metallic. I knelt down and brushed away the dust. It was a nameplate. Faded, rusted, but still legible. The Armitage Institute, helping people start new lives. My hands were shaking. I turned it over. Scratched into the back, in small, deliberate letters, was a message. "Stop digging, Ethan. We're not done with you. I dropped the plate and stumbled back. The field stretched out in every direction, silent, empty, infinite. And then, from the distance, I saw headlights. A car slowly approaching. I thought of running, but my legs refused to move. The car stopped a few meters away. The driver's door opened. She stepped out. Same dark coat. Same calm smile. "Mia," I whispered. She closed the door gently. "You keep using that name," she said softly. "But you still haven't figured it out, have you?" My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear my own voice. "What are you?" She smiled wider. "The only person who remembers you existed." And as she walked toward me, the lights behind her flickered out, one by one, until there was only darkness in her voice. "Welcome to Phase 5. When I woke up, the first thing I noticed was the silence. Not the kind you get at night in a quiet house. This was deeper, sterile, perfect, like the world had been turned off. The ceiling above me was white, too white. The air smelled faintly of antiseptic and metal. I tried to sit up, but my wrists wouldn't move. My hands were strapped down. So were my legs. I was lying on a hospital bed, or something that looked like one, with soft restraints and a heart monitor beeping steadily beside me. But the monitor didn't show a heart rate, just a single, pulsing line that flickered like it was thinking. There was a window to my right. Beyond it, nothing. Just a white void that seemed to stretch forever. I called out. No answer. The room swallowed my voice whole. After a few minutes, or maybe hours, time didn't seem real, the door opened. A woman in a gray uniform stepped in, holding a clipboard. She looked at me like she'd been expecting this exact moment. "Good morning, Mr. Harris," she said softly. "How are we feeling today?" "Where am I?" I demanded. She smiled politely. "You're safe." "I didn't ask if I was safe," I said. "I asked where I am." She didn't answer. She wrote something on her clipboard and said, "Your cognitive response time is improving." "That's good. What are you talking about?" The woman looked up. "You've been in a controlled recovery phase. We've had to rebuild your neural identity structure. It's important you don't strain yourself trying to remember everything at once." My blood ran cold. "Neural identity? Phase 5, she said like it was obvious. "You're almost ready for reintegration." Reintegration into what? She didn't answer. She turned toward the door. "Wait," I shouted. "Where's Mia?" That made her pause. Slowly, she turned her head back toward me. The polite smile never left her face. "You remember her?" "Of course I remember her. She's the reason I'm here." The woman nodded slowly, jotting something down. "Interesting," she murmured. "Subject retains a fragment of emotional tether. Expected, but remarkable." I pulled against the straps. "What are you doing to me?" She looked at me with pity, or maybe amusement. "You volunteered, Mr. Harris. You signed a consent form yourself." I froze. "That's impossible." She handed me the clipboard. My signature was at the bottom of a page labeled, "Armitage Project, Participant Agreement." Above it, in fine print, "Participant acknowledges full consent to identity reconstruction and perceptual testing phases. Subject's previous memory profile may be modified, duplicated, or erased as necessary." My mouth went dry. "I never signed this." She smiled. "You did. Or, at least, the version of you that existed before Phase 2 did." She turned to leave. "Wait," I yelled again. "Where's Mia? Where's she now?" The woman stopped in the doorway. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she turned slightly, her voice barely a whisper. "She's in Phase 6. "What's Phase 6? Her eyes met mine. Observation. And then she was gone. The lights dimmed. The monitor beside me flickered, and suddenly, her voice filled the room, Mia's. Calm, intimate, the way she used to sound when she whispered to me in the dark. "Ethan," she said softly, "you shouldn't have fought so hard. You were perfect before you remembered." I froze. The voice wasn't coming from a speaker. It was coming from inside my head. She laughed quietly. "Don't look for me. You won't find me here. I'm not in your world anymore. I'm in you." The monitor pulsed faster. My restraints tightened. "Do you understand now?" she whispered. "Love was never the experiment. You were." The room began to shake. Alarms blared. The white walls rippled like fabric, bending, warping, melting away until I saw flashes. Her face, the fire, the field, the cameras, like memories folding in on themselves. And then I heard her again, closer this time, right beside my ear. "Welcome back, Ethan." The last thing I saw before everything went black was my reflection in the window, smiling back at me. Only it wasn't me. It was her. When I opened my eyes, the world felt too real. The light was warm, the air heavy with the smell of rain and earth. Birds outside, traffic in the distance, the faint hum of life. Everything sounded perfect, natural. Too perfect. I sat up slowly, half expecting to feel restraints around my wrists, but there were none. Just clean sheets, a soft bed, and sunlight streaming through the blinds. My chest rose and fell normally. My heartbeat was steady. My hands looked steady too. For a few seconds, I thought it was over, that I had somehow escaped whatever that white hell was. But then I caught my reflection in a glass. It wasn't my face. Same eyes, same shape, same color, but the small details were wrong. A sharper jawline, slightly different hair. The kind of difference that makes you look twice at someone and realize something's off. I whispered my own name under my breath, just to hear it aloud. "Ethan." The voice that came out wasn't mine either. My pulse quickened. I stumbled to the mirror across the room and stared. Every scar, every wrinkle, every memory I'd carried, gone. The face staring back at me was familiar but foreign. The kind of face she would have designed. There was a knock on the door. I froze. "Come in," I said instinctively, and even the sound of my own voice made me flinch. The door opened. A man in a white coat entered, clipboard in hand. His expression was warm, rehearsed. "Good morning, Mr. Cross. How are you feeling?" "Mr. Who?" He smiled politely. "Cross. You were in observation for a while. We didn't think you'd wake up so soon." "I'm not." I stopped. My throat tightened. "Where am I?" The man looked at his notes. "You're safe," he said automatically. "You've been given a new life." A chill went down my spine. "No," I said slowly. "No, this isn't happening again." He raised an eyebrow. "Again." I took a step back. "Where's Mia?" He blinked, clearly unprepared for the name. "Who?" "Mia. The woman who—" I stopped when I saw the small badge clipped to his coat pocket. "The Armitage Institute." The room started to spin. "No, no, no, no." The man's voice softened. "You shouldn't remember that name." I lunged toward him, grabbing the collar of his coat. "What did you do to me?" He didn't resist. He just looked at me calmly and said, "Phase 6 was successful. She's already been reintegrated." I froze. "What do you mean reintegrated?" He smiled faintly. "She's living your life now." The words hit me like ice. I stumbled back. "What?" He continued, as if explaining a scientific concept. "After Phase 5, your cognitive matrix was stable enough for transfer. We moved her consciousness into the subject's original vessel." "My body," I said hoarsely. He nodded. "And yours was repurposed. You're an iteration, a preservation of residual identity patterns. A copy." I stared at him, my mind tearing itself apart. "So, I'm not real." He tilted his head. "Real is just a matter of continuity." The walls around me seemed to breathe. The air thickened. I felt a pulse beneath my skin that didn't belong to me. He took a step closer. "You should be proud, Mr. Cross. You're proof the experiment works. Love, identity, memory, all transferable." I shook my head. "No, she can't." "She already has," he said. "Mia is living your life. Your job, your home, your friends. She's everything you used to be." I felt my knees weaken. "Why?" He smiled again, almost kind. "Because you were never supposed to survive. You were just supposed to prove it was possible." He pressed a button on his clipboard. A small, high-pitched tone filled the room, and my vision started to blur. I grabbed the edge of the desk. "What are you doing?" He didn't answer. The last thing I saw before everything went dark was a small camera blinking red in the corner. When I woke again, I was standing in a crowd. People walking past me, laughing, talking, a busy street in the middle of the day. I turned in every direction, trying to find something familiar. Then I saw her, across the street, leaning against a cafe window, wearing my face. Mia. She looked right at me, smiled, my smile, and mouthed something I'll never forget. "Now you understand." The crowd moved between us, and when it cleared, she was gone. I looked down at my hands, trembling, foreign, empty, and realized what she'd done. She didn't just steal my life. She became it, and I was just the ghost left behind.